Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next hour. Israel is checking Hamas's claims about the new body handed over to the Red Cross, whether it's Shiri Bibas. And Hamas is to release 6 Israeli hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. US pushes Ukraine to sign critical minerals deal soon. Trump says Zelensky and Putin must get together to end the conflict. Indian origin Kash Patel is sworn in as the FBI director in Washington, D.C. He takes oath on the holy book, the Bhagavad Gita. Political parties in Germany are into the last leg of campaigning for the Sunday voting, and polls show that the mainstream parties are losing steam. The far right and the far left are gaining ground. In sports, injury-hit Australia will face England in their opening match of the Champions Trophy in Lahore on Saturday. Hamas will release 6 hostages on Saturday in exchange for hundreds of prisoners of Palestinian origin as part of a hostage prisoner swap under the ongoing Gaza ceasefire deal. The 6, the last living hostages from a group of 33 that are due to be freed in the first stage of the ceasefire deal, which was agreed last month, were expected to be handed over at around 6:30 GMT. Now, 4 of those hostages were seized by Hamas gunmen during that attack on Israel on October 7 in 2023. Another 2, in fact, have been held by Hamas since they entered Gaza separately under unexplained circumstances, and that was around a decade ago. After this release is concluded, there will be 4 remaining bodies of Israeli captives to be handed over, and that would conclude the first phase of the ceasefire agreement, which ends on March 1. Now, the second phase of Gaza truce talks are expected to begin in coming days. Hamas has handed over the mortal remains of the Israeli hostage Shiri Bibas. The misidentification of this body had caused, had threatened to derail, in fact, the fragile Gaza ceasefire deal. The Israeli medical authorities have said that forensic teams are preparing to examine this body that has been sent, which Hamas has transferred via the Red Cross to confirm its identity. The handover comes after Israeli authorities had accused Hamas of a horrific violation for sending the body of an unidentified person and falsely claiming that it was the Israeli woman in an earlier exchange. Hamas had agreed to hand over the bodies of Shiri Bibas and her 2 young sons, along with the remains of a 4th hostage on Thursday under the ceasefire that has halted fighting in Gaza since last month. Israeli leaders met in Riyadh on Friday. They are crafting a plan for Gaza's post-conflict reconstruction. Now, the state news agency, SPA in Saudi Arabia, in a statement has described this meeting as an informal brotherly gathering. According to the SPA, this meeting included consultations on various regional and international issues with a focus on joint efforts to support the Palestinian cause and address developments in the Gaza Strip. It added that the leaders welcomed the Emergency Arab Summit, which is scheduled in Cairo on March 4, 2025, after which the first phase of Egypt's reconstruction plan is expected, in fact, to begin should the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas hold. My colleague Amit Mukherjee has been following the story and he joins me now from New Delhi. Amit, what can we read into, this informal brotherly gathering of Arab leaders in Riyadh?
Well, Mark, as of now, as far as the details of this gathering is concerned, I mean, nobody is coming out and speaking clearly about it. Now, one thing is there that the Arab world is completely united as far as opposing Trump is concerned over his proposal to take over Gaza. But, there is disagreement between them also. There's disagreement between the Arab world as to how would the takeover of Gaza happen, who is going to fund it, who would control Gaza over the period of reconstruction. So all these things are yet to be kind of spelt out clearly. So as of now, even when contacted, after last evening's meeting, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, who is the president of the United Arab Emirates, he was contacted as to how did the meeting go. But his sort of response was very, very vague. He said the meeting was absolutely great, but he's declined to spell out the details of as to what exactly transpired in that meeting.
Right.
So the disagreement as far as who's going to fund the rehabilitation and reconstruction of Gaza, who's going to control Gaza over the period of reconstruction, all these things are yet to be spelled out. On the other hand, if you look at US, they are going ahead with their plans. They have been in constant engagement with Egypt and Jordan, who
Sure.
would play a very, very important role as far as US's plan to take over and reconstruct Gaza is concerned. So as of now, if you look at the two sides, whether if you look at the Arab side, they are still unclear as to how things would they would want the things to work out in Gaza. But on the other hand, US is going ahead full steam with its plan. Trump is often on and off, he's repeating his stance as to he wants
Yes.
to take over Gaza and reconstruct it. Yes.
Yes, Amit, but if you have to read between the lines, the ceasefire is still holding. But clearly, the Israelis are releasing many prisoners in exchange for the hostages in Hamas custody. There are about 600 prisoners for 6 hostages. So how does this change the situation in Gaza?
Yes, in fact, Mark, although the situation is very fragile after the mixing up of the bodies, which happened, 2 days back, where Israel is construing the whole incident as a non-adherence of the of the ceasefire agreement by Hamas. But still, Hamas is going to go ahead with the release of 6 hostages against. But they expect also 602 to be precise. 602
Yeah.
Palestinian prisoners will be released by Israel following the release of the Israeli hostages. Now, again, if you look at what had happened over the last 3-4 days, again, the bombing which happened in Tel Aviv, 3 buses exploded. Again, Netanyahu has ordered an operation against the terror hotspots, which of course he was referring to Gaza. Certain pockets where the Israelis believe that these are places from where Hamas is still operating against Israel. So he has ordered that, and at the same time, seems that Hamas has been making itself very clear. In fact, a few days back, it also said in the next level, or in the next stage of the ceasefire, if it continues, it's going to release all the hostages which are
Right.
being held them captive in Gaza right now. Mark?
Also, Amit, Rubio has called Hamas pure evil. He wants it to be eradicated. The UAE has told him that the US's displacement plan in Gaza is unacceptable. So that's out of the question as far as the Arab leaders are concerned, even though they may not be stating it clearly. How is this going to play out? What are the expectations? Because there's this big Arab League meeting that's going to happen on the 4th.
That's right, Mark. But if you look at again yesterday's meeting, nothing really has come out from it. In fact, even if it has not been spelled out to the world. On the other hand, US has constantly been engaging with Jordan as well as Egypt. King Abdullah of Jordan also had a meeting on 11th Feb with American authorities as far as this whole Gaza plan is concerned from the American point of view. So America is kind of moving ahead with its plan, and right at the beginning, Trump was very, very clear that Jordan and Egypt is going to play an important role. The leaders are magnificent. They are very magnanimous. They're going to offer something to the Palestinians who will be displaced to their territories once the reconstruction plan is kind of worked out. Again, Egypt has also said, there would be a 3-stage redevelopment plan of Gaza. One would be moving in heavy machineries to kind of clear up the devastation that has happened over the last 1 year in Gaza. And second stage would be urban planning, how the whole Gaza seems to, the pattern of new Gaza would look like. And third would be actually deploying that urban development plan. But on the other side, again, if you look at the Arab world, they are still confused as to how they want to go about it. The questions about who's going to control Gaza, what should be the funding pattern, how should it work out, all those things those are at a very nascent stage. First, they have to reach an agreement. Of course, they are united against Trump's proposal, but they have to also spell out what their intentions are and how they want to go about as far as redeveloping Gaza is concerned. Mark?
Amit Mukherjee from New Delhi, thank you very much for joining us. Now, updates also on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, advocating for a quick resolution to the ongoing conflict. The US President Donald Trump, he's called for cooperation between the Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He emphasized that Russia was open to negotiating a deal. Now, Trump held individual talks with both leaders to discuss the matter. Trump, in office for just a month, is pushing for a quick deal to end the conflict and has alarmed Washington's European allies by leaving them out, even Ukraine out of the initial talks with Russia.
I think that President Putin and President Zelensky are going to have to get together because you know what? We want to stop killing millions of people. You have young soldiers being killed. If you saw the pictures that I saw of the battlefield from satellite, you've never seen any pictures like that.
Trump also flagged the mineral deal that he says he's close to negotiating with Ukraine.
I think we're pretty close, yeah. I think they want it, and they feel good about it, and it's significant, it's a big deal, but they want it, and it keeps us in that country, and they're very happy about it. But it's we get our money back. This should have been signed long before we went in. This should have been signed by Biden, but Biden didn't know too much about what he was doing. The war should have never happened.
The proposed partnership would give the United States access to Ukraine's deposits of critical minerals. Trump wants Ukraine to give the U.S. companies access to minerals as compensation for tens of billions of dollars of aid delivered under his predecessor Joe Biden. Ukraine is seeking security guarantees from the United States in exchange for signing the critical minerals deal. During his nightly address, Zelensky said that his government was working with Washington on a draft agreement aiming to strengthen weakening relations between the two countries.
The teams of Ukraine and the United States are working on a draft agreement between our governments. This agreement has the potential to strengthen our relations, and the most importantly, the details must be arranged in a way that ensures it works. I hope for a fair result.
Still to come here on DD India News Hour. The US President Donald Trump, he is looking to counter digital taxes on American big tech companies with tariffs of his own. The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio calls for immediate ceasefire in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. A Tokyo bookstore has closed after 102 years of business, signaling hard times for the print industry.
We are looking at the phenomenon that is remaking all aspects of life, digital public infrastructure, DPI. What is India's role in the development of DPI, both domestically and globally? And what are India's strengths in this field, and how is India helping to remake the global digital order?
Traditionally, India has always been like, at least for the bigger technology solutions, we've always been takers of technology rather than givers of technology. And I think there is a sense of pride that is associated with taking your technology to the rest of the world.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. And Germany heads into snap elections on Sunday after the collapse of the Chancellor Olaf Scholz's coalition. With 4 key contenders in the race, the outcome will determine Germany's fate and influence in Europe, which is the political direction that Europe also should be taking. Let's look at this report.
Germany is set to hold a snap national election on Sunday, February 23rd, following the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-way coalition. The election has triggered extensive debates across the country on topics ranging from the economy and migration to Germany's role in the European Union. With 4 major contenders vying for the chancellorship, the results will not only determine Germany's future, but also impact the broader European landscape.
Alles Gute, viel Erfolg.
First up, Friedrich Merz. A seasoned politician, Merz is widely expected to become Germany's next chancellor. Leading the conservative CDU-CSU alliance, Merz is a known advocate for tax cuts and deregulation. His campaign focuses on revitalizing the economy while balancing the conservative base with a push to win back votes from the far-right Alternative for Germany, or AfD. Next, Alice Weidel of the far-right AfD. Weidel's candidacy has shaken Germany's political dynamics. An economist by training, fluent in Mandarin, Weidel presents a modern face for a party often criticized for its far-right views. Under her leadership, the AfD has gained substantial support by focusing on strict immigration policies and calling for the tighter border controls. Olaf Scholz, of course the incumbent chancellor from the Social Democratic Party, or SPD, is seeking a second term. However, persistent infighting within the coalition and a struggling economy have weakened his position, with polls showing the SPD trailing behind the Conservative and the AfD. Rounding up the list is Robert Habeck of the Greens. Currently serving as Germany's Vice-Chancellor and Economy Minister, Habeck gained popularity by leading the Greens through a successful period of growth. However, his policies on transitioning from fossil fuels to greener alternatives have drawn mixed reactions. Now, as Germany prepares to vote, the world is watching. The key issues dominating the elections include Germany's approach to the war in Ukraine, economic recovery, and migration. With Nancy Baloda, Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
Kash Patel took oath as the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation on Saturday, placing his hand on the holy book, the Bhagavad Gita. He became the 9th person to lead this agency. The oath ceremony was administered by the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi in the Indian Treaty Room in the Eisenhower Executive Office building on the White House campus in Washington, D.C. Now, following the oath, Patel said that he was living the American dream, and he added that a first-generation Indian is about to lead the law enforcement agency of the greatest nation on earth, unquote. He also made a strong commitment to ensuring accountability within the FBI. Meanwhile, the President Donald Trump of the United States...
First-generation Indian kid who's about to lead the law enforcement community, the greatest nation on God's green earth. That can't happen anywhere else. There will be accountability within the FBI and outside of the FBI, and we will do it through rigorous constitutional oversight starting this weekend.
And the U.S. President Donald Trump expressed his strong support for Kash Patel. He called him a tough and strong person. The U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered his trade chief to revive investigations into imposing taxes or tariffs, in fact, on imports from countries that levy digital services tax on U.S. technology companies. A White House official providing details of the order said that Trump was directing his administration to consider responsive actions like tariffs to combat the digital service taxes, fines, practices, and policies that foreign governments levy on American companies. The digital service taxes aimed at dominant U.S. tech giants, including Alphabet's Google, Meta's Facebook, Apple, and Amazon, have been a long-standing trade irritant for multiple U.S. administrations. Britain, France, Italy, Spain, Turkey, India Austria and Canada have levied these taxes on sales revenue by these and other digital service providers within their borders. And the US President Donald Trump on Friday fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General C.Q. Brown. And Brown was the second black officer to serve as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff after Colin Powell. Brown, a former fighter pilot and command experience in the Middle East and Asia, had served as the Joint Chiefs of Chairman since October 2023. Brown was on official travel when Trump made this announcement. Trump, in a social media post, thanked Brown for his service of 40 years, and he further announced that he would nominate the retired Lieutenant General Dan Razin Kane to succeed Brown. Trump will also replace the head of the U.S. Navy, a position held by Admiral Lisa Franchetti, the first woman to lead the military service, as well as the Air Force Vice Chief of Staff and Judge Advocates General for the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The United Nations Security Council on Friday called on Rwanda's military to stop supporting the M23 rebel group in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo and immediately withdraw all their troops from Congolese territory without preconditions. The 15-member council unanimously adopted a French-drafted resolution urging the DRC and Rwanda to return to diplomatic talks to achieve a lasting peaceful resolution. The UN resolution strongly condemns the ongoing offensive and advances of the M23 in North Kivu and South Kivu with the support of Rwanda's defense forces and demands that M23 immediately stop its hostilities and withdraw. France's permanent representative to the United Nations, the Ambassador Nicolas da Riviere, has said that the resolution sends a clear message that there's no military solution to this conflict in the east of the DRC.
Les forces rwandaises doivent se retirer.
The Rwandan forces must without delay withdraw from Congolese territory, as has already been declared by the United Nations Secretary General as well as the members of the Security Council. MONUSCO needs to be able to carry out the mandate for the benefit of civilian population without being obstructed in its efforts or its freedom of movement.
The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Friday called for an immediate ceasefire in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo in a phone conversation with the Kenyan President William Ruto. And both leaders, in fact, discussed the ongoing conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, including the unacceptable capture of Goma and Bukavu by the Rwanda-backed M23 armed group. The Cook Islands, they have struck a 5-year agreement with China. This is to cooperate in exploring and researching the Pacific Islands' seabed mineral riches. So a copy of this deal, which is likely to irk the former colonial ruler New Zealand, showed its covers working together in the exploration and research of seabed mineral resources. A joint committee is going to oversee the partnership, which includes seabed minerals related training and technology transfer, logistics support, and deep sea ecosystems research. The Cook Islands government said that the Memorandum of Understanding signed with China on February 14 did not involve any agreement to give an exploration or mining license. The self-governing Cook Islands is a country of 17,000 people and has a free association relationship with New Zealand, which provides budgetary assistance as well as helping on foreign affairs as well as defense. New Zealand has already accused the Cook Islands government of a lack of consultation and transparency over a wider partnership agreement with China. It has demanded to see all the agreements signed during Cook Islands Prime Minister Brown's China visit. New Zealand and its allies, including Australia as well as the United States, They have been unnerved by China's growing diplomatic, economic and military influence in the strategically important Pacific. But Brown has insisted that his country's relations with New Zealand and other partners are not affected by the partnership accord he signed with China. The Australian government has mentioned its concerns to China about the short notice that Beijing gave for its recent military drills. Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong raised concerns with her Chinese counterpart over inadequate notice of a rare live fire exercise in international waters between Australia and New Zealand and forced airlines to divert flights. Meanwhile, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said that the time period for the Chinese Navy exercises had expired and it was unclear if live fires had been used by the Chinese Navy.
We are aware of this task group. We are monitoring this task group very closely. It is, as I understand it, operating in international waters. We will be discussing this with the Chinese, and we already have at officials level, in relation to the notice given and the transparency that has been provided in relation to these exercises.
Well, China issued, in accordance with practice, an alert that it would be conducting these activities, including the potential use of live fire. It's outside of Australia's exclusive economic zone. Australia and New Zealand ships and P-8 aircraft have been monitoring the Chinese fleet while they have been travelling down the coast of Australia, off the coast.
Pope Francis is currently receiving treatment for double pneumonia at Rome's Gemelli Hospital. One of his doctors said that he is not in danger of death, but has not been fully cured, and his condition could yet change. His medical team said that the Pope was able to get out of bed and sit in an armchair and do some work, but predicted that he would remain in the hospital at least through the coming week. Doctors also warned that Francis remains at risk of the infection spreading from his respiratory tract to other parts of his body. Francis was admitted to hospital on February 14 after struggling with breathing difficulties for several days. Onlookers at downtown Buenos Aires, they witnessed the city's iconic obelisk turned into a message of hope for Pope Francis. On Friday, the government of Buenos Aires decided to project Francis' portrait and message of recovery until February 26 to wish him a speedy recovery. Pope Francis comes from Argentina. Okay. Let's take a look at some other stories making news from around the world. The German police arrested a man suspected in a stabbing attack on Friday at Berlin's Holocaust Memorial that left a Spanish tourist seriously injured. Police said that the motive behind the attack is under investigation. The world's largest vehicle carrier, the Hoge Aurora, crossed Panama Canal on Friday. The transit of this huge vessel, which is capable of transporting approximately 9,100 cars, highlighted the canal's strategic importance in global maritime trade. Hundreds of American pelicans have migrated up to over 4,000 kilometers to Mexico City to seek warm waters and food, in fact, for the winter. Originating from Canada and the United States, these birds travel each year to avoid extreme cold and settle in the Xochimilco wetlands of Mexico City from November to April. Anthony and Joe Russo, prolific directors and screenwriters of the Marvel Universe, cemented their legacy in the famous TLC Chinese theater with a handprint and footprint honor. The world-renowned theater's forecourts of the stars is home to nearly 200 other celebrities that have been forever immortalized at the iconic venue. A historic bookstore in Tokyo has closed down after an incredible 102 years of business. Now, once a beloved destination for book lovers, the store now joins a growing list of closures in Japan, highlighting the challenges faced by the print industry in the digital age. So still to come here on DD India News Hour, the Mahakumbh prepares for Mahashivaratri on February 26. Solan Valley in Himachal Pradesh receives fresh snowfall, and that's good for skiers, as we can see. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Mann Ki Baat program is on the 23rd of February.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, foreign ministers from the G20 leading economies met in South Africa's Johannesburg. Despite common interests, the group remains divided on critical issues such as Russia-Ukraine conflict and climate change. Amid these developments, India's External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar has assured of India's support for South Africa's G20 priorities. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay reports.
South Africa is hosting the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Johannesburg. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a two-day visit to South Africa to participate in the G20 meet, assured India's support for South Africa's G20 priorities. Delivering his remarks during the session on G20 objectives in 2025, Johannesburg, Jaishankar said, "We are supportive of the priorities of the South African presidency. They gel well with what India has advocated both nationally as well as during its own G20 presidency. On international disaster response, we support strong frameworks for preparedness, emergency response, recovery and reconstruction. India initiated the Coalition of Disaster Resilient Infrastructure in 2019. On financing a just energy transition, India has always believed that it must be affordable and equitable while considering the growth imperatives and differentiated responsibilities of developing countries." On the sidelines of the G20 foreign ministers meet, Jaishankar met his counterparts from other countries. Jaishankar met his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi. Both leaders highlighted the importance of cooperation between the two countries in preserving and protecting a multilateral body like the G20.
External Affairs Minister and Chinese Foreign Minister, His Excellency Wang Yi, met on the sidelines of G20. The meeting lasted for about 30 minutes. The two ministers reviewed developments in our bilateral relationship since their last meeting in November. Specifically, the management of peace and tranquility in border areas, Kailash Mansarovar Yatra resumption, trans-border rivers, flight connectivity, and travel facilitation were discussed. There was also an exchange of views on G20 and SCO.
Later, he also held a trilateral meeting with foreign ministers of Australia and France. Jaishankar also met with the foreign minister Ahmed Attaf of Algeria. Discussion was held on partnership and cooperation in multilateral arena. Developments in West Asia also came up in their discussion. Jaishankar also met with the foreign minister of Ireland, Simon Harris. South Africa will hold the G20 presidency from the 1st of December 2024 to the 30th of November 2025. To tackle the global poly crisis, South Africa has embraced the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability for its G20 presidency. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And now we bring you a report by DD India correspondent Nazneen Ismail from Johannesburg on the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar's meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Minister Wang Yi, in South Africa.
Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a bilateral meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Minister Wang Yi. During the meeting, Dr. Jaishankar emphasized that in a polarized global landscape, both India and China have worked diligently to preserve and protect the G20 as a key international institution. He noted that this collaborative effort highlights the significance of international cooperation in addressing global challenges.
I'm very glad we could meet today on the sidelines of the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Johannesburg. Since our last meeting in Rio during the G20 summit in November 2024, there have been some notable developments. Our NSA and Foreign Secretary have visited China, and there have been discussions about various aspects of our relationship. These have included management of peace and tranquility in the border areas, as well as other dimensions of our ties. I'm glad today to have a further exchange of views.
In our bilateral relationship, the most important thing last year is the summit meeting between President Xi and Prime Minister Modi in Kazan. Our leaders set out the overall direction of improving this relationship, and our leaders reaffirmed that China and India, as two Asian civilizations and as neighbors, should engage in mutually beneficial cooperation.
G20 meetings shall continue for the rest of the year, with the finance ministers gathering in the mother city Cape Town next week. I'm Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Mauritius Prime Minister Naveen Ramagoolam announced that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be joining the country's 57th National Day celebrations as a guest of honor. While addressing the parliament, Ramagoolam said that it would be his country's honor to host such a leader despite his very tight schedule and his recent visits to Paris and the United States. The country will celebrate its National Day on March 12. Last year, President Draupadi Murmu participated in the 56th National Day celebrations of Mauritius as the chief guest.
Of the celebrations of the 57th anniversary of the independence of our country, I have great pleasure to inform the House that following my invitation, His Excellency Sri Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of India, has kindly agreed. As I said, His Excellency Sri Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, has kindly agreed to be the guest of honor for our National Day celebrations. It is indeed a singular privilege for our country to host such a distinguished personality who is doing us this honor, in spite of his very tight schedule and in spite of his recent visits to Paris and the United States. He has agreed to be here as our special guest. The visit of Sri Modi is a testimony of the close relations between our two nations.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people of India and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program. This is happening on the 23rd of February at 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. It will be the 119th episode of his monthly radio program. The program will be broadcast on the entire network of Akashvani and Doordarshan, the news website of Akashvani, and the News on Air mobile app as well. It will also be live streamed on the YouTube channels of Akashvani, DD News, PMO, as well as the Information Broadcasting Ministry. Akashvani will broadcast the program in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. India's Home Minister Amit Shah will chair the 27th meeting of the Western Zonal Council on Saturday in the West Indian city of Pune. So the Western Zonal Council, it comprises the states of Gujarat, Goa, Maharashtra and the Union Territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. The 5 zonal councils were established in 1957. India's Home Minister is the chairman of all these 5 zonal councils, while the chief ministers of the states are included in the respective zonal councils, as well as the Lieutenant Governor of the Union Territories, the members. The zonal councils, they take up issues that involve the centre as well as the states and between one or more states in the region. Thus, the zonal councils provide an excellent platform for resolving disputes and issues between the centre and the states and between the states of the region. The Mahakumbh 2025 in Prayagraj has drawn an overwhelming number of devotees to the sacred Triveni Sangam, the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati rivers. Displaying unwavering faith and devotion, more than 590 million pilgrims have already taken a holy dip, seeking spiritual purification and blessings. People from across India and the world continue to arrive there daily, making the Mahakumbh a global spiritual spectacle. The Mahakumbh 2025 is not just a religious gathering, it's a reflection of the rich spiritual heritage and enduring faith of millions. As the sacred waters of the Triveni Sangam witness history, the event continues to inspire devotion, unity and cultural pride. With the final bathing festival of the Mahakumbh 2025 set to take place on Mahashivratri on February 26, marking the conclusion of the 45-day, once-in-12-year affair. So, officials have ramped up preparations to ensure seamless arrangements for devotees. In fact, acting on the Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath's directives, the Chief Secretary Manoj Kumar Singh, as well as the DGP Prashant Kumar, they visited the Mahakumbh Nagar and they did so on Friday. They reviewed the arrangements and also the instructions that were given to officers concerning necessary instructions for preparations. But at the same time, the state government is closely monitoring attempts to disrupt the sanctity of the Mahakumbh through misleading social media posts. Let's take a look at other stories making the news now. The young fashion entrepreneur from Srinagar has contributed in transforming women's fashion in Jammu and Kashmir by blending traditional Kashmiri craftsmanship with contemporary designs. Her innovative approach has revitalized the local fashion industry. It's garnered attention both regionally and nationally. It aims to make Kashmiri attire more accessible and appealing to a broader audience globally. Solan Valley in Himachal Pradesh has received fresh snowfall, enhancing the region's appeal for winter sports enthusiasts, attracting tourists for skiing and other adventure sports. The influx of tourists during the winter season has bolstered the local economy with increased demand for accommodations, guided tours and equipment rentals. The Taj Mahotsav, which is one of the most eagerly awaited festivals, begins from 18th February at Shilpgram, which is near the eastern gate of the Taj Mahal. And this 10-day long carnival is a vibrant platform that gives one information of India, where one can find, the rich arts of crafts and culture, cuisine, dance and music of the country. The Taj Mahal is a beautiful historical monument, one of the wonders of the world, and it tells about incredible India. Yoga, the ancient Indian exercise, it's gaining popularity in Brazil as well, in Sao Paulo, thanks to Professor Marcos Rojo Rodrigues, who has been teaching yoga for the last 3 decades in Sao Paulo. And because of his ceaseless efforts, Marcos was conferred with the Prime Minister's Award for Outstanding Contribution towards the Development and Promotion of Yoga in 2021. DD India correspondent Shobhan Saxena files this report.
Sao Paulo is the biggest city in South America. It is also the financial capital of Brazil. The city is also known as the yoga capital of South America. The city of 11 million people has hundreds of yoga schools spread across the city. Yoga schools like this. In these yoga schools, thousands of people learn yoga and Indian meditation practices every year. Professor Marcos Rojo Rodrigues from Sao Paulo is a pioneer of yoga in Brazil. He's been teaching yoga to Brazilians since 1980s. Recently, he has been conferred with the Prime Minister's Award for Outstanding Contribution towards the development and promotion of yoga in Brazil.
I'm very proud to be recognized by the government of India with these awards. It will help us a lot. We are doing a lot of work in São Paulo. São Paulo is the biggest city in Brazil. It's a stressful city, and it will motivate us to develop more and more yoga. I started practicing yoga in the School of Physical Education in 1975. Since then, I love yoga, and then I decided to practice more and more. And my teacher insisted me go to India to learn because we didn't have good courses of yoga in Brazil. And then I came to India. I learned yoga in Kaivalyadam. Kaivalyadam is in the city of Lonavala, a small city close to Mumbai. I enjoy a lot. I came with my wife. I loved the people. I loved yoga. I felt India as my second home.
Professor Rodriguez works with various institutions like universities, hospitals, and cultural centers across the city and around Brazil. He is quite popular and respected among his students for his knowledge and wisdom about yoga and meditative practices from India.
I started in the University of São Paulo. It's the main university in Brazil, in South America. I was teaching yoga for 35 years. Now I'm retired. And since from the university, we started working in the hospitals. You are now in the main hospitals in São Paulo, teaching yoga for the patients. Also, we start yoga in some schools, some jails and prisons, and we are helping a lot in the research in yoga for us to be connected with doctors, to be connected with the academic way to think is very important. Then we are doing some research, we are helping some people also in prisons, and we hope to develop more and more.
The Prime Minister's award to Professor Marcos Rojo has made the community of yoga practitioners in Brazil very happy. They're very excited and hopeful that now the Indian yoga and meditation practices are going to grow more in the biggest South American country. This is Shoban Saxena for DD from Sao Paulo in Brazil.
And startups today are playing an important part in strengthening the country's economy. Prime Minister's concept, those who started their own businesses are now able to provide jobs to others. That was the concept. And this is the reason why not only global but local investors are coming to startups. Unicorns have been invited by the MP Global Investor Summit. This is going to be held from the 24th to the 25th of February in Bhopal, the capital of Madhya Pradesh. Arnav Gupta, who is working in the field of software by starting a startup in Bhopal, and the employees of his startup, they believe that thanks to the thinking of the Prime Minister, they now share a stage with big investors at this summit.
Global Investors Summit will organize in Bhopal, capital of Madhya Pradesh. We are at the startup office. In this summit, not only global or local investors, but also startup peoples are invited in this Global Investor Summit. We are with Arnav Gupta, who are the director of this startup. Arnav, tell me how important this GIS for you kind of people.
No, I think GIS is a great platform. Firstly, I would like to thank our Honorable Prime Minister for taking his time out from a busy schedule to actually host something like this in Bhopal.
What kind of opportunities you can found in this summit? Like this is a very good platform for in a one roof. Global and local investors are there.
I think I really consider that your network is your net worth. I really think the network which you will create in GIS will be really good. Because the people who will come in this GIS event will be corely, coming strictly for investment purposes.
Arnav, do you feel that your kind of people you're the brand ambassador of Madhya Pradesh? Like when we invite global investor, local investors, you kind of people are brand ambassador of Madhya Pradesh, like in this sector?
Yeah, no, I honestly think I don't consider myself as a brand ambassador because there are a lot of bigger companies out there. But when you talk about in startup space, yes, we are one of the fastest growing startups out of MP. And we consider great pride in, becoming that, because reason being that we have been really ultimately helped a lot by government as well. Government has provided us support in terms of subsidy, in terms of infrastructure.
How GIS is important for the people of Madhya Pradesh?
I think with Global Investor Summit happening in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, I think people will start believing that there are a lot of opportunities here. And we have also noticed that a lot of talent goes outside Bhopal, right? They think that Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, these are good cities for nurturing startups. So I think that will also change.
How startups are help you kind of people for opportunities?
So basically, working in a startup is a very good choice where an individual can, if they want to invest in their knowledge, if they want to grow, so definitely they can work in startup. Meanwhile, while working in startup, they got good opportunity where they can connect with founders, CEOs.
So not only the founders and CEOs are excited for this GIS, but also the employees of this startup offices are also excited for Global Investor Summit in Madhya Pradesh, which will be organized in Bhopal on 24th and 25th February. With camera person Gaurav Nirutkar, Aditya Srivastav, DD India, Bhopal.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for the sports news. And the injury hit Australia are going to be facing England in their opening match of the Champions Trophy in Lahore on Saturday. Australia, who are the 50 overs world champions, go into this opener on the back of a defeat in Sri Lanka and also no warm-up matches in Pakistani conditions. Australia's bowling will rest largely on the shoulders of fringe pacemen after their frontline bowlers pulled out of the tournament due to injury or personal reasons. For England, Jamie Smith will return return from injury, in fact, to keep wickets and bat at number 3. And the 24-year-old had missed England's recent losses in India because of a calf injury. England had lost both ODI and T20 series in India. And Phil Salt retains his spot. Ben Duckett, Joe Root, Harry Brook, Joss Butler and Liam Livingstone constitute the batting lineup. Narayan Singh is with me now, and he's going to throw light on this match, put it into context for us. Narayan, so are the world champions favourites for this match, despite whatever we say? What are their strengths and weaknesses?
Mark, talking about this match, as already you mentioned that Australia is plagued by the injuries and they have been troubled with that. The key players, especially their frontline pacer, the way Mitchell Stark, we know that what kind of bowler he is, what kind of impact he puts on a match, especially in the white ball cricket. And also Pat Cummins, Hazelwood, and is not there, and Mitch Marsh is also not there. And recently, their all-rounder Marcus Stoinis also has been retired from the ODI format. So it is great difficulty for them. And also they are coming back off a 2-0 series loss against Sri Lanka. So, but the kind of players they have bought, Nathan Ellis is there, Johnson is there. So they have some good quality players who also have the experience of playing the cricket, and they are also waiting for a long time to be there in the setup. So it's also an opportunity for them. So this is the positive thing for their bench player who are getting opportunity here. So they have the desire to play and they can capitalize this opportunity and to set the pace to present their case in the team. So in that sense, we know that Australia are 2-time ICC Champions Trophy champions. So we can't take this Australian side lightly in any conditions. And also we know that they have the Travis Head.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I mean, Travis Head is there, so I mean, we know how he took the match away from India in the finals of the World Cup. But, you know, what's your assessment of the English team? Anything to look out for?
Talking about English team, we know that they came to India and lost the series against the India. So they are not in the good form. They are struggling with the form. And it's also opportunity for them, the England team and the Brandon McCullum. He's now in the ODI setup also coaching the England team. So it's also an opportunity for them to just whatever learning lessons they took from the India series, here they can take that things in a positive way. And we know that it's a testing time for them, but we know that they have the good batting strength. Harry Brook is there. We know his record in Pakistan, especially in the Test cricket. His average is around 82. So it's Pakistan wickets are always very kind to him. So it's an opportunity for him to rediscover his form. Also, they have batsmen like Phil Salt, and their captain too is an attacking batsman. So down the order, talking about their bowling too, Mark Wood, one of the best bowler in the world, he can use the condition here better way, and Joe Archer too. So all in all, it's a good contest, but it remains to be seen how they execute their plan on the, we can say, during the match.
So one of the big matches then of the Champions Trophy today. Thanks very much, Narayan, for putting it into context for us. London's St. Paul's Cathedral was immersed in light and sound, transporting visitors into a surreal experience. The artist who created this light show has called it a beautiful marriage between the building and art. We leave you with glimpses of light and art on this 350-year-old building. That's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Thank you very much for watching. Namaskar.